Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Pros MLB. This is Fantasy Baseball Draft Court. And court is in session with me, Judge Joey. I am here today with the sleeper and the bust. I brought them both in on charges that I don't want to talk about right now, but we might save for a later day. Perhaps they will get thrown out of this court depending on how things go today. Justin Mason is here. Paul Sporer is here, and we are going to debate some guys that they are higher on and lower on than each other. And it could get ugly here in the courtroom. We have some security ready to go to pull one of them out in case somebody starts throwing haymakers all over the place. And we just might do that. So this is a show you can't miss. And this is why you tune in here to Fantasy Pros MLB. This is why you subscribe to the channel. And make sure you drop your comments below. We're trying to get to 30,000 subscribers. We can do it with your help. And, of course, when you subscribe and drop your comments, guess what? You can win some free stuff like the Fantasy Baseball Championship Belt. Oh, look at this. From Trophy Smack, the #1 destination for epic fantasy football and baseball hardware. So whenever you need something for your leagues, you can get it at Trophy Smack. And look at this belt. It is fantastic. I've got one of these for football. Let me tell you, this is heavy. You can knock somebody out with this in your league, steal their draft pick, go ahead and do what you want, but you can only get it right here for free at Fantasy Pros MLB. So drop your comments, ring the bell till it goes ding so you never miss a piece of content on the channel, and make sure also that you never miss an episode, and you can let you know if you're the big winner of the championship belt from Trophy Smack. Gentlemen, and of course I use that term loosely with the two of you, does it make you upset, Justin Mason, to see me with hair, considering I am one of our bald brothers?
Yeah, I don't know how to feel about this right now. It's very unsettling, that is for sure. It doesn't look right. It feels wrong, and yeah, I don't know how to react right now.
You look amazing, Your Honor.
See, Sporer knows what to do. You kiss the judge's ass, you get better rulings. See, right off the bat, Sporer's already good.
I'm sorry, but this is America where we fight for truth and justice. And the truth of the matter is, that's weird.
Objection.
Okay. All right. Well, objection sustained, Paul Sporer. All right, let's go. I've got my gavel. I've got my wig. I've got my my robes here. What I'm wearing under it is my business, not yours. And we're going to talk about some players here. The first one is a big deal because Nolan McLean is a guy you put some pretty hefty draft stock in right now. We will be watching him more in the WBC, I believe, this evening, too, unless something's changed that I don't know about. So we have Nolan McLean. That first outing in WBC wasn't so hot, but it doesn't matter because the guy came up last year, gave 8 tremendous starts. Everybody was super excited about Nolan McLean's future this year, but it feels like somebody might be a little less excited about Nolan McLean at his current ADP. So let's start here with Justin Mason. Justin Mason, what side of the Nolan McLean argument would you like to take here in 2026 before the court today?
Your Honor, I am pro Nolan McLean. This is a young stud. I love everything that he does. He has a completely full arsenal, can throw 6 pitches, showed great command and control last year, a huge strikeout upside. There's really no reason to be down on Nolan McLean, and anybody who says otherwise is not just wrong, but isn't very smart. So I say to you that Nolan McLean should be considered an SP2 with SP1 upside, Your Honor.
I will hold that objection for a moment here because I want to cross-examine for a moment Justin Mason. Yes. Justin Mason, looking at these current projections, 128 whip, 145 strikeouts, 3.82 ERA, 10-9 record. It's not great. He is being drafted right at the 24th pitcher overall in the consensus rankings at Fantasy Pros, which you can find at fantasypros.com/rankings, so go check it out. And then you look, he's a top 100 player, just barely at 95. But I got to say, these projections are not great. Why are these projections so low on Nolan McLean after he was so incredible last year down the stretch and before his call-up from AAA?
Here's the thing, when you're arguing a court case, let's look at the evidence. And the evidence is that projections are lower on rookies and younger players because they don't have the track record, MLB track record, to go back through. This is why, the bat always says, hey, I'm lower on rookies or I'm lower on young guys. They don't have this MLB track record to kind of pull from. So I wouldn't worry as much about the projections. I think the projections are missing on McLean. What he does is he strikes guys out. He has amazing stuff. All 6 of his pitches have a stuff plus greater than 100, 100 being league average. As long as the control is in check, I have no reason to believe that Nolan McLean won't turn into a stud this year.
All right, so we'll sit the defense down now. Actually, Mason's sitting already because it's a podcast. Nobody really stands on podcasts anymore. Paul Sporer, you are going to take the other side of this one. So let's get your take on why perhaps Nolan McLean is a little overrated this year.
That last line was essentially, if he's good, he'll be good. If his command and control are there, he'll be good. Of course that's true. But we did not actually see that from Nolan McLean in his sample. In fact, that kind of stood out like a sore thumb. A 9% walk rate isn't that sharp. A 95% location plus isn't that sharp. And despite that beautiful 117 stuff plus, he does have remarkably nasty stuff. I would say that he kind of underachieved in the strikeouts. And that's a little bit concerning. On the one hand, you could say maybe there's upside there because he only had a 30% K rate and 11% swinging strike rate. First off, that sort of swinging strike rate doesn't usually sustain a 30% K rate. So he needs to get the extra swing and miss. This is not some sort of bonus that you're buying of like, oh, he could even strike out more. I need Nolan McLean to get more swings and misses and improve his command in his first full year. Dude has fewer than 50 innings. And Joe, you read the conservative FantasyPros ADPs on him. If you're over at the NFBC putting in that main event money, you're paying pick 79 for Nolan McLean. What are we doing here? I do understand that projections are light on prospects because they don't have a deeper record, but they're also a sobering look at what we're doing here and making sure that we're not chasing too much. My former colleague here, and we'll see how far this goes because I'm really disgusted with his behavior in this court today, if I may say so myself, Your Honor. But anyway,
objection.
My one-time good friend here often recommends folks not wish cast. And you know what? That's great advice. I just wish he'd take his own advice. The defense rests.
Ooh, that is a solid argument. I'm going to ask the prosecution a follow-up question here because I want to get a little bit more insight. You look at last year, of course, I don't think any of us think that the 206 ERA is something that's going to carry over and sustainable. However, when you look at the FIP and the XFIP, they're both under 3. So to Mason's point about wish casting, it's a small sample size, but over 8 starts, it certainly looked as though Nolan McLean was showing you that there is some sustainability in here. How much do you think the league will adjust to Nolan McLean too, considering how incredible, when you dig into some of the bigger nerd stats of McLean, the ball movement is one of the most electric in baseball, right? I mean, you can see it with your own eyes. So there's a lot of that. And one thing hitters always say, when a guy has a ball that moves as much as Nolan McLean, that is really tough to square up consistently and hit. So the fact that the expected ERA obviously was a little bit higher, but the FIP and the XFIP were still not quite in line with the 2 ERA because that's ridiculous, but not far away from it either. Do you see no path for Nolan McLean to possibly be a top 20 pitcher this year?
I see a path. I see a clear path. The problem is you're already paying full freight for it. And I'm not necessarily against betting on the come with guys. In today's fantasy world, you have to do that. You're not going to get a super thick track record on everyone you get. But fewer than 50 innings of a good but not completely pristine sample is simply not enough for me to pay a top 80 pick. You talk about the nastiness of that stuff and how it can be difficult to square up. That is absolutely true. You know what else is difficult to do is constantly put it in the zone. And if batters start relenting on swinging and they don't give in to McLean's stuff, what if all of a sudden that walk rate is back at the 11% that we saw in the minors last year? That's a totally different story at that point. I just think that we're not really baking in the potential rookie struggles that we see from so many guys. And instead you're having to pay full freight on McLean. And it's just a risk that I'm not as comfortable taking. I know if he shows out tonight, that price is going to go up even higher too, which is the crazy part.
I wonder if he bombs again. Okay, Justin Mason, go ahead. All right. Sustained. I want you to go ahead and make your closing argument here on McLean.
Paul just said it's difficult for him to keep it in the zone. He had a 52.5% zone percentage last year.
I said it can be. I didn't say it was. I said
please let Justin Mason speak. It is his turn to speak.
It would have been the highest zone rate of any pitcher in Major League Baseball, and not particularly close. Above Tariq Skubal, above Brian Wu, who were the top 2.
Why is he still walking 9% then?
Mr. Sporer, I will hold you in contempt.
We have an ABS system now. He's going to get better strikes. I think Nolan McLean is being slept on, and the fact you would slander a New York Met in front of Mr. Pisapia, the honorable Mr. Pisapia, is just insane to me.
Pandering.
I'll accept it. I'll allow it. I will allow the pandering. I just want you to know the pandering is allowed here in the courtroom.
What is believable about that 53% zone rate? It doesn't match up with anything else he's done, whether in the minors at 49% or 47% in the 45% in the very small
guys get
sample.
different coaching when they get to the major leagues. Guys change,
and we shall see. We shall see if he will change. Why do you still only have a 9% walk rate though?
All right, gentlemen, we will now go to the decision here. I have to say, going into this, I was still very excited about Nolan McLean, and I actually got a piece of evidence here that came in a little late that I'm going to read off here that's on my desk that's been presented to me right here. And it says the other thing you have to take into account with Nolan McLean is the fact, as Justin pointed out, he is a Met. And typically things don't go well for us as Met fans. We're not allowed to have nice things.
Your own point went against you.
It's pretty difficult. But I will say, as excited I am about Nolan McLean, I do think the one point that kind of sticks with me and drives home is the fact that Paul Sporer said you're paying for him to be great already. And that is a high payment. I'm going to rule in favor right now of Paul Sporer. And I will say we are going to avoid Nolan McLean at his ADP, but not avoid him altogether. The judgment is sound. Man, that one hurt. I really went in there.
Is there an appeal process?
You can appeal. You got to go on another podcast, though, because this is the only one we got today.
You can't appeal to Joe today, and Joe and Eric on our podcast today.
Yeah.
So you can go ahead. Look, and this is the problem is I'm excited about Nolan McLean, and I know Mason's excited. Look, I think we're all excited about the prospect of Nolan McLean. But he's right next to Yuri Perez, and I feel way better about Yuri Perez this year than I do about Nolan McLean. And it's also Yuri Perez has also been a pitcher his whole career too. Nolan McLean hasn't been a full-time pitcher until recent memory. You know, he's another convert two-way guy.
That makes his stuff much more impressive, I will say. That he was
it makes his stuff more impressive.
He was hitting tanks at Oklahoma State, and he's barely been a pitcher now.
He's barely been a pitcher, and look, DeGrom was one of those guys too. But I also think it gives us that, maybe he's going to be more durable. You know, he's got a little, less wear and tear on that arm. Maybe that's true. But it's also a matter of it's also new to him and trying to make 30 starts this year. So there's some unknown. If he was around 30, I'd feel better about it.
This is also where he can finally concentrate on just one, right? And we saw guys like, Lorenzo Cain have, a later peak because he came to baseball later, right?
In high school, hadn't even picked up a bat.
I think McLean is one of the guys we're just scratching the surface on. Totally understand the price argument, and it is a good argument against Nolan McLean. I'm here for it.
All right. We're going to move on to our next defendant here. A pitcher that the Welsh loves, I love. It was so great to see him back last year. And I was pissed, too, because I missed out on picking him up in my league, too, by like a couple bucks. So annoyed. Emmet Sheehan of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Will it be a six-man rotation? Maybe, if we can get 6 healthy starters at one time for the Dodgers. I don't think that's a possibility. I don't think that's a world any of us live in. But Emmet Sheehan, you look at the projections here, 9-6, a 3.82 ERA, a 1.16 WHIP, 156 strikeouts here. The strikeout potential is there. We flashed it in the minor leagues a couple years ago. He was leading the minor leagues in strikeouts, and then we had the injury and things fell apart, but he's pitching for one of the best teams in baseball, if not the best team in baseball. We will take the prosecution here on this. Give me the anti-Emmet Sheehan argument. Who wants to step up to the plate here?
It's me, and I just got to say, I don't know how Paul can defend Emmet Sheehan's price when Nolan McLean's, he's going after Nolan McLean. Emmet Sheehan's price in the main event right now is pick 85. Now, obviously, in your ESPN,
pick 85.
It is. It is.
I was literally
insane.
I was literally going. If you're going to let me go first, I was going to say during the process of discovery, some information has come to my attention that I have to recuse myself because, jokes aside, this is a price point that when Justin and I disagreed on him, he was about 25, 30 picks cheaper.
Well, hold on a second. Let's hold the phone because most people don't play in NFBC who listen to the show. Right?
Sure.
Most people who are playing fantasy baseball are playing with
still
their friends
109 on FantasyPros, and that's still higher than when we argued.
The consensus ADP right now is at 140. I'm looking at it. He's the 40th pitcher going overall in the ADP rankings right now. That's where he is.
Oh, so ADP. Sorry, I was on the draft.
So in the ADP, draft rankings is one thing. In the overall ADP right now, you're looking at Emmet Sheehan, and it's tolerable, right?
Okay, I'm back
140
on.
overall.
I'm back on him.
Did you back on?
I can explain 140 easily. Justin might actually be going the other way then, because he might actually be on at 140. Because again, our pain point was around the
Well, if you guys want to come to an agreement
range.
here,
Where are you on the 140 price point, Justin?
Would you like me to offer you arbitration here today?
Yeah, we could have an arbitration situation here.
All right, Mason, talk to me about Emmet Sheehan's pitfalls this year.
I think one of the pitfalls is innings. We have no idea what kind of innings count they're going to give him in LA. We also know that the Dodgers love these 6-man rotations to kind of protect Ohtani and their other pitchers who are constantly already injured, right? Blake Snell going to start the year on the IL. They also have a ton of depth, right? They've got a ton of guys who are going to come in and out. I just think that at pick 140, you're asking him to take a step forward that we haven't yet seen at the major league level, and you're passing up on really, really good starting pitchers that I'm not really ready to pass up on around that spot. I'm trying to find the ADP.
So
I've got some names for you.
Gavin
I've got some
Williams,
names for you. I will
go ahead, Judge.
I will rattle off the names for you. After 140, you have Luis Castillo, Gavin Williams, Mackenzie Gore, big strikeout potential there. Williams, obviously, second half, very good. Sandy Alcantara, who, Cy Young winner. Let's see if he can get back to form. Trevor Rogers,
it's going to be
lights
this
out for
list
100
right
innings.
here.
And then Drew Rasmussen is next. So you've got a list of about 8 guys here. And then, of course, there's the Bubba Chandlers and the Yamais and some guys that are a little bit more unknown. But there's definitely a list there of at least 6 guys that you could say, I've seen a little bit more of Sheehan, if indeed you'd like to go with something as opposed to the unknown entity, Mason.
Yeah, give me Sandy Alcantara, give me Trevor Rogers, give me Drew Rasmussen. If you want a youth guy, you want a young guy, give me Bubba Chandler, who was the top pitching prospect in all of baseball coming up in last year. If you let me finish my talking point, sir, show some decorum in this courtroom.
Mr. Sporer, I like the cut of your jib. You complimented me before the show, but again, I will hold you in contempt. You must let Mr. Mason at least get out one or 2 points. Then you can hammer him after. All right.
I appreciate you holding him in contempt because I hold contempt for him
is
every day.
Disgusting.
I don't know that I feel very confident. Now, to Paul's credit, right? Sheehan is a guy who came up last year through 73 wonderful innings, 2.82 ERA, great strikeout rate, showed a pretty good command and control. I worry about the health. This is a guy who's missed time in the minor leagues. I worry about the Dodgers and the Dodgeritis. Will he get enough volume? Like, the one thing I don't worry about with McLean that I do worry about with Sheehan is the volume question. Will the Dodgers allow him to get that volume? Can he hold up physically to that volume? I understand it's a huge upside pick. I just don't love the price point, especially around the other guys he's going around.
Paul Sporer, I'll let you take the defense here because I love the talent of Emmet Sheehan, but there is a good point here by Mason, which is the guys going around him certainly have a little bit more of a body of work. At least some of them do. Sure, some of them might be on, Luis Castillo might not be in the greatest realm of his career at this stage of the game. We still have to question if what we saw from Trevor Rogers or Gavin Williams is what we're going to see again. But Emmet Sheehan, we've seen less of, although it is very exciting, and he is a Dodger. So talk to me about Emmet Sheehan and why people should draft him in the range we are right now.
I got to be honest. I think a lot of those talking points that Justin used would have worked well if we had stuck with the NFBC ADP, and it really would have been really difficult for me to argue that because he is not that far behind Nolan McLean right now over at the NFBC at pick 82, and we said Nolan McLean was at like 78, so they're right by each other, and so I would have been sunk. But since we're using this FantasyPros, which is what the bulk of people are going to be playing, is Yahoo, CBS, ESPN, and Emmet Sheehan comes down to 140. I think this is a cakewalk at that point. How can you possibly support McLean up at 78 and not Sheehan down at 140? Sure, there are some other good guys, but some of these factors that you mentioned against him, I'm not sure that they're not positives. First off, whose innings can we really be certain on? We have ideas of who's going to pitch, and we try to map out, who's going to be in the rotation all year. They can't give nobody triple digits, though, right? 3 guys got triple digits last year. 2 years ago, it was Gavin Stone who actually led the team with a $140, which gives me a real Emmet Sheehan vibe, meaning they don't always make their best guy the innings leader. It was Yamamoto Yamamoto last year, which, that track, that's their best guy. He had the most innings. But we know that they're not afraid to let somebody like an Emmet Sheehan possibly be their best guy. With 73 already in the majors, I don't see why he has to be babied in particular. And in today's game, even a $120, add 50 to what he did last year is enough. Notice I've said nothing about the skill because the skill is above reproach. I don't think there's really anything that you can get into with regards to the skills at pick 145 that would hold a lot of merit against his contemporaries. What doesn't he do that these guys can do? He can have the swing and miss. You mentioned Bubba Chandler if you're going to go for a young guy. On team alone, I can't do that, let alone the fact that Bubba Chandler isn't entirely sure of where the home plate is.
I agree with that
sentiment. I do like Bubba Chandler. This is not an anti-Chandler, but I'm Sheehan all the way at one extra round. If it was 2, 3, 4 rounds, you can start talking, but we're talking pick 154 versus pick 138. That's Sheehan all day still. I still have great win probability on this team. So while I might get some innings shaved off or have some difficult management, like Justin mentions with Dodgeritis, I will accept that. I'm still going to get a better per inning pitcher on the best team in the universe. And I'm going to take my chances that he can get up to 130 innings because that's all I really need to cash in big. I think another 70, a repeat of last year. Let's say 73 innings with a 3.25 ERA and a 115 whip. That would be worth my 145 pick, let alone if he does more than that. So I think Sheehan is just completely set up for success this year, even if you keep the innings somewhere capped around 140 because of the Dodgers.
I have a question, if it would please the court, for Mr. Sporer.
I will allow it.
If Emmet Sheehan was pitching on the Pirates and Bubba Chandler was pitching on the Dodgers, you would take Emmet Sheehan over Bubba Chandler? Because that's what it sounds like to me.
Let me, before I answer, let me ask you a question with the question. Why would you say
that? No. I hate when people answer questions with questions.
But
it's the worst thing.
Team,
people do it all the time.
The team aspect was so valuable. So why? What makes you think that? I'm just wondering.
Well, because you said that Emmet Sheehan's skills are above reproach, and I don't believe. Yeah. I don't believe that's the case. Bubba Chandler, especially if we're comparing the two, Bubba Chandler has much better stuff, better location. I in a better
listen.
Like,
I'm here for these next level stats, but location plus don't mean anything if you're walking guys. If you're walking guys still,
but stuff plus does, right? And Emmet Sheehan only has one pitch over 100 stuff plus. It's the changeup. He only throws it 17% of the time, unless there's a pitch mix change. I don't see how he maintains what he did last season or even takes another step forward, right? So why
would the 31% strikeout rate be questionable with 16% swinging strike, though?
I just think it's a little bit of small sample.
The court would like to reckon back for a moment, if we could, to the exact question, and Paul Sporer will answer that question directly because I think it's a hot question. If Emmet Sheehan was a Pirate and Bubba Chandler was a Dodger, would that ADP be reversed, and would you be speaking?
The ADP would be completely reversed. The ADP.
Would you be in on that player in that ADP? Would you prefer Bubba Chandler on the Dodgers as opposed to Emmet Sheehan, where he is? I'm
going to do another hypothetical, like a really annoying person, because my contention, Judge, is that if Bubba Chandler were a Dodger, his ADP would be pick 100. Like, this hypothetical is. I don't think you could just switch them and say, I'll live with your hypothetical. If Bubba Chandler was a Dodger at 138
make him answer the
and
question.
Emmet Sheehan was a Pirate at 154, who would I take? I would still take the Dodger. I don't think that's inconsistent to what I said, though, because I used the Dodger for Sheehan as a big talking point. So what have you proven by getting me to say that I would take Chandler there?
All right, deliberation is done. We've heard the arguments, and I have to say this is another surprising one for me. I will say this. I offer everybody the concept of if he's going in what you say, the 80th player overall in NFBC right now.
Yes, I believe. Yeah.
Yes.
That's absurd. That's absurd.
I love Sheehan, but his
Sheehan.
helium has been silly.
It's been insane.
That is completely absurd. So we will say at that ADP specifically, we're absolutely avoiding him. No way.
And I am too. I'm on board of avoiding him in NFBC now. And
now I will say, wait, the judge is still speaking. Judge Joey still has the floor.
I need to be held in contempt. I absolutely need to be held in contempt.
Well, we know that, and I've held you in contempt for quite some time. We've been friends for 2 decades, and it's 2 decades too many. Sporer.
2 decades of contempt.
2 decades of contempt. I will say this, too. The way that you avoided the direct question
want to get detailed. You saw that? Dang it. I forget I'm on camera.
You've avoided the question twice. I gave you a second chance to answer it there. And when people answer questions with more questions, that means they don't have an answer that they believe in. Therefore, I will rule in favor of Justin Mason in this one, which is shocking to me because I thought this was a layup. But you know what? There's a couple other names around that same grouping there that I feel like showing you a little bit more or a little safer. There's great helium. There's great upside in Emmet Sheehan. So I'm going to say even at 140, we're also going to avoid him unless the caveat is you've built such a fantastic starting pitching group that they're so solid. You got the Scooble. You've got another 2 or 3 guys you feel so good about in that rotation that you know. You got a Logan Webb, a guy who's just a dog in there. Then you can get fancy with Emmet Sheehan. But I think far too often people don't do that. So it's a little contextual, but we'll work that out. We'll send it to a lower
context.
Court,
okay for you, not for me. Fair enough, Judge. Fair enough.
That's right. This is my court,
right,
sonny boy.
Upholding the law impartially. Absolutely.
And the fact that I let you wear a hat into my courtroom, too. All right, let's get to the third player on our list. Before we do, don't forget, if you're running your fantasy leagues this year, why not try Fantrax? They have year-round engagement, off-season trades, real-time updates, and seamless player transactions to keep the excitement alive 365. That's right, baby. You can do multi-team trades, and also you can trade draft picks as well for players. So no matter what your league is, you want to dream up, whether it be Dynasty or Redraft, Fantrax can make it a reality. And you can bring your league over to Fantrax today for fantasy baseball. For an unbeatable user experience, sign up today at fantrax.com/fantasypros. That's fantrax.com/fantasypros. Now, what both of you should have done before this show is obviously brought me some sort of envelope with money in it if you really wanted me to decide a certain way. I'm just saying you had the opportunities. You both have my Venmo. I'm disappointed in both of you. Let's move on.
Will you take a Mountain Mike's gift card?
Oh, that's
there is no Mountain Mike's near me on the East Coast. I would accept Kohl's Cash also. Very valuable.
What about a Bed Bath Beyond coupon?
I have a BFT Auto Body.
No, again, not here. The Bed Bath & Beyond one, though, Sporer, that is intriguing. I do have 2 teenage daughters in the house, and there's a lot of lotions and soaps and things.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that I would accept also, but we have to move on. Jo Adell last year, after years and years of waiting for a big season from him, it kind of came out of nowhere. You saw the power from Jo Adell last season, and now it's a matter of can he find a way to repeat and copy and paste. Jo Adell has bounced back and forth time and time again from the minor leagues to the major leagues, from the major leagues to the minor leagues. Has gone back and forth. Right now, currently, he's the 124th player off the board, the 34th outfielder, which feels like a bit of a value. Last year, 37 home runs that nobody saw coming. He drove in 98 runs too. I think for all of us with Jo Adell, he's 26 years old now. This has been a long time coming. Batting average is never there. I don't think it's ever going to be there. But I think we'll trade that off if we can get 30-plus bombs again. The question is, do the deeper stats allow us to go that route? Who would like to take the defense of Jo Adell's ADP first between the two of you?
Well, I would like to take the defense of him because I think when you say, like, the batting average will never be there, you're thinking about the old Jo Adell, and this is a new Jo Adell, and it's been a Jo Adell in that's progressing year after year. You look at his zone contact when he first kind of came into the league, it was terrible. 2020, 68%. 2021, 2022, you're talking about a guy under 80%. But the last 2 seasons, he has really started to improve that hit tool. 81% in 2024, 85%, which is league average zone contact in 2025. We know he's got power. We know he's got speed. And the only thing that's held him back is that ability to make consistent contact within the zone. And he's shown progression year after year with that without giving up that power, right? Sometimes guys will go like, oh, I'm going to make more contact. But in order to do that, they got to swing a little bit slower. Not Jo Adell. Jo Adell is still crushing the ball, but making league average zone contact. I think this is a great price for Jo Adell. I think he's going to continue to get better. Remember, this was one of the top prospects in all of baseball based on tools alone. Ago. Yeah, but he's only like 26, dude. Like you say 30 years ago. But he's 26 years old, going to be 27 here at the beginning of the season. Hey, those of you who were age 27 truthers. This is the year. But seriously, I think Joe Adell is turning into the player we thought he could be.
Nothing makes this judge go 6 to midnight more than the words league average. Also, let it be noted in the court's official statements here that Joe Adell does not spell his name with an E at the end of Joe, which I also find disconcerting at times. Paul Sporer, let's take a look at the prosecution of Joe Adell here and the negative side of him.
Look, it seems like maybe the sky's falling for some folks when they see, this 26% K rate, 6% walk, and they think it's worth getting this guy. I think you should just set fire to your entry at that point, because what are you trying to say hello to this guy for? You don't want someone like Joe Adell. You want someone who can actually hit. The simple fact is this is empty power. What is empty power? You say power not usually associated as empty in the fantasy space. We usually say that for batting average. What I mean by empty power is that you get the homers. He did have 98 ribbies, I'll give him credit there, but you get a bad batting average and you get weak runs, and I don't really see where the upside comes. He has legitimately bad plate skills with the 26% K rate, 6% walk. Where are those improving? He still swings and misses a ton with a 14% swinging strike rate. He ran a 22% homer to fly ball rate, did Joe Adell, to get those homers, which he could maybe do again, but a 17% barrel rate is a 5-point uptick. Is he going to keep that? I don't know. Do I really want to bet on it? Another thing that happens when you strike out so much is that the times that you do make contact, you have to do your damage. So if you aren't putting the ball out at a 22% clip on homers to fly ball, are we getting even 30 homers, let alone another 37? I don't see where the growth is. I could maybe squint and see a repeat, but I think that's if everything breaks right. I really think we have a great chance to come back closer to something like 2024, and I'll even give him the speed for that, but that was 2015 with a 207 and a 91 WRC plus. I just don't see where I want to be picking up this guy. I don't think he's the remedy to your team, and I think you're chasing pavements with Joe Adell.
Mason, the fact that he only stole 5 bags last year, too, a little upsetting. The year before, he had 15 steals in 130 games. Last year, just 5 stolen bases. He's a very athletic, speedy guy. The rules have really opened up for stolen bases. If you were telling me Joe Adell this year, I mean, the projections are telling us 9 stolen bases. If you told me he was going to be a 30-15 guy, maybe I can get on board and take the batting average and a lot of the league average stuff that you talked about. But how do you defend against the idea that right after him, maybe a round or two, Andy Pajes is there, Lawrence Butler, a guy who's got a similar profile to Adell, but a little bit cheaper, and frankly, still, certainly a year younger too. Noel Marte, a boring guy like Ian Happ, who's just putting up stats every year, or Alec Burleson, and then even a little further down, if you want a guy with raw power and upside, you could wait 3 or 4 more rounds and take Jack Caglione. So, how do you justify Adell considering the actual remaining guys in that general vicinity and the outfield? And by the way, Paul Sporer, just for the record too, I did enjoy your Adele song reference to Let the Court Show. That was quite good. The Chasing Pavements was. I just want to give you a hello. It's me. I hear you. All right, Mason, back to you there.
Listen, I don't have a problem with a lot of those guys that you mentioned, so I'm not going to besmirch, Mr. Caglione, who I absolutely love. What I will say is the reason that a guy like Lawrence Butler is going later is because Lawrence Butler's hurt, right? And if Lawrence Butler is healthy coming into the last weekend of drafts, I bet you Lawrence Butler kind of jumps up there. I think Andy Pajes is a really interesting guy. He's gotten this hype around him being an affordable Dodger, which for some reason this year is the year of the affordable Dodgers coming off of a 2-peat and going for a 3-peat. I've never seen a team so dominant, quote unquote, like have these guys go later. But I think Pajes, what we saw last year is a ceiling on a guy like that. We haven't seen the ceiling on Joe Adell. If he continues these underlying metrics of improvement, which we've seen year in, year out from still a fairly young guy, like I could see a world in which we have like a 40-15 kind of season. Yes, the stolen bases did go down last year, but you know what? Sometimes it's hard to steal first base or steal second base when you're jogging around the bases because you just hit a bomb. And that's what happened with Joe Adell last year. Is he was got so many extra base hits, he didn't have as many opportunities as he did in 2024. I mean, yes, I understand there are some pitfalls, but the idea that he is empty power seems ridiculous to me when he can do all sorts of things, include stealing bases. And we see in these projections right here that we've got that Fantasy Pros has him projected for 9. I could see that get back up closer to that 15, be that 35-15 guy with a better batting average. The XBA last year was 260. So I think there's room for that batting average to grow. Yeah,
great for the XBA leagues.
It will be, and you should play in some XBA leagues, Paul.
And some X-Plug leagues as well. We love the X-Plugs here around there. Closing statement from you, Paul Sporer, real quick. And if you do, give me another Adele song title somewhere in that argument. It won't be overlooked.
Don't go rolling in the deep, though.
I started with that one. Listen, the remedy here is to simply take Trent Grisham 110 picks later. He did the exact same stuff last year with far better plate skills. 24% K rate, 14% walk rate, 8% swinging strike rate. It's just take Trent Grisham.
And you can do that too, right? Like this idea.
Why would I pay 110 picks higher for the same profile?
We have 5 outfielders we have to fill in a league. Like,
he's just too expensive. That's all. That's all.
All right, the court has made its decision. Everybody has weighed in. And I do believe at this point in time, the arguments on the Paul Sporer side of this one to avoid is correct. Joe Adell, I've seen too much bad Joe Adell. I don't want to fall into a trap there. And to the point, too, if you're looking for just cheap power, you can find it later. And there's some guys getting floated around there in those rounds in the outfield that you could take a little bit of a chance on, or take the boring guys like the Ian Happs of the world, or take guys like Burleson. Boy, I hope we draft somebody today. This is 3 in a row where we haven't drafted anybody. This is what we got to tell you. You have to look. I think the idea is that, especially the first 2 guys, there's no doubt that there's a lot of excitement when it comes to those 2 pitchers. But at the same time, you have to know what kind of roster you're building and also what you're getting yourself into at the current ADPs. The 140 is still tenable, I feel like, for Emmet Sheehan. The 85 is absurd. I mean, that's just
agreed.
That's higher. Yeah. What's McLean going at? If he's at 80, what's McLean?
Basically, Sheehan just caught up to McLean. He's only 4 or 5 points
so they're
ahead of
basically the same thing.
Yeah.
Right,
so Sheehan's 85, and I want to say McLean is 80.
He just jumped up to him. McLean's been there all year, and Sheehan just got brought up to his level.
All right, so we've got 3 players in the tag. We got 2 more to go. The next one here, oh my God, another Met. How could you guys do this to me? It's Luis Robert, everybody. A couple years ago, he flashed what looked like all-star MVP level productivity. He's a great defender, he can steal bases, but injuries, lack of hustle, lack of, I don't know, anything, maybe a team around him. Luis Robert's really fallen out of favor the last couple of years, but now there's room for excitement. I know, just personally speaking, whenever Andrew Vaughn got traded to the White Sox, I was watching very carefully to see if the change of scenery would do him good in Milwaukee, and it did. And I know one person in this room, besides me, Justin Mason, likes him a lot this year. So, could Luis Robert be that guy again here, with a contract looming as well, playing in an environment where you've got leadership with guys like Lindor, with Soto, in a spot where games matter? Who would like to come to the defense of drafting Luis Robert here? It'll be Paul Sporer to take the stand first. Go for it, Sporer. Tell me why we should be drafting Luis Robert at his current ADP.
Well, Your Honor, you hit on something that I am a big fan of, which is the change of scenery. I do think that there is a lot of merit to that. It doesn't mean that every guy that leaves a bad situation gets instantly better, but not everyone that leaves a bad situation has the talent profile of Luis Robert. And the beauty of Robert is that even in the last 2 seasons, which were undeniably wretched from a slash line standpoint, let's call it a WRC plus standpoint, which just kind of summarizes it into one number, 84. That means he was 16% below league average. That's bad. I'm not going to sit here and deny that. But he went 14-23 and 14-33 in those 2 seasons in 100 and 110 games. That is pure fantasy juice, even with the bad batting average. And the 224, 223 batting averages, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that they don't sting you. But in today's fantasy climate, they don't kill you the way they used to. So you can get that speed there. And so there is still a floor to Robert that doesn't completely kill you. Obviously, I don't want this year, 14 and 25 to 30 steals with a 220 something average. That's not what we're paying for. We're paying for something much closer to the return of that big 2023 season, not a full return to 38-20. I don't think we're going to get that, but I think with health, which is the biggest caveat here, It's an unknown, but it is something that you're going to bet on with somebody like Robert, that we're going to get back into the 20s with the homers and 30 plus steals pretty easily with a 240, 250 type average on a good team. You cited Andrew Vaughn, another guy I was absolutely keyed in on like you were when he went to the Brewers. Is this going to help? It did instantly. I don't know that it's going to be an instant flip for Robert, but if he stays healthy, he is going to be a good fantasy player. Some guys have fantasy juice that even in their down seasons, it's there. Even if Robert just hits projections, which are 2020 pretty much across the board, that will be good enough to take him. He is more expensive than Adell, but you're actually getting the steals. You're getting the fantasy juice to go with it. So I'll buy back in on Robert this year.
All right, let the prosecution step up here. Justin Mason, you have the floor. Why should people be avoiding Luis Robert Jr. in 2026 drafts?
All right, we have to start by just picking apart Paul's argument right here, because he made the best point and tried to use that as a positive for him. But it's the if Luis Robert stays healthy. Luis Robert never stays healthy. Like that's just the point. He has one season where he's gotten to 500 plate appearances.
That is the guy that was talking up Joe Adell, talking about health. Okay, no problem. I was making sure.
Adell,
I'll allow it.
Adell has played in fewer seasons and has more 500 plate appearance seasons than Luis Robert.
There's one.
They're
tied at one.
Okay, well,
you don't know your own player.
Check. Whoa! Am I allowed to speak here? Is this Paul Sporer's time? Yeah, mute your microphone. Luis Robert, all he does is get hurt. And as much as I love the guy, and I hope you're right. I do. I hope he puts together his first ever 600 plate appearance season and absolutely crushes it. I just don't have any belief he will. And I also don't have any belief that it would even be good. Yes, you would get power and speed, but I think even a full season of plate appearances from Luis Robert Jr. is going to look very, very similar to O'Neal Cruz and crush that batting average.
He's never come anywhere near that 209 level. He's never been anywhere
But I
near
think
that.
he could. The problem is and I think part of the issues with all these injuries for Luis Robert is what we're seeing is a degradation in skills.
Mr.
Right?
Sporer, I love you making some good arguments. Please let Justin Mason finish his argument, please.
We were talking about with Adell, you don't like the fact that his zone contact is at league average. The last time Luis Robert's zone contact was at league average was in 2022. It's been 80% pretty much the last 3 years. He also swings outside of the zone way too much. We're talking 33 to 40% over the course of the last 3 years, which means that walk rate we saw last year was pretty fraudulent. He got very, very lucky to post a 9% walk rate. It's going to be much closer to that 6% career mark. You don't like the strikeouts from Joe Adell. Why do you like the strikeouts from Luis Robert? I mean, I think this is a really, really risky profile. Honestly, there isn't that much difference between Adell and Luis Robert, except for Adell can stay on the field.
All right, let me ask you this, Justin Mason, because we're talking about the ADP being pretty similar. Now, he is 28 years old, okay? So only 2 years older than Joe Adell, and he's basically back-to-back. It's a 121 outfielder, 121 overall, 124 overall. 33rd outfielder is Robert, 34th outfielder is Adell. So they are back-to-back. So really it's a question of these guys are on the board, which one do you take? And I have to ask you this question because you mentioned about the swing and miss, and you mentioned about some of the strikeouts going up last year and some of the issues recently. How much also does lineup protection matter? Because if you look at wasn't around in the last couple of years with the White Sox, man, it's really difficult to be the only guy standing there because they're not going to pitch to you. They have no reason to throw you strikes, especially if you have a breakout season in 23. I understand he only played barely 100 games and 110 games the last 2 years, but despite all of that, everything came crashing down along with the White Sox. So is it just a matter of taking a player with a lot of talent and putting him in a better situation? Does that possibly just fix a lot of the ills for a guy who there's just no reason for opposing pitchers to even throw anything near him?
Hey, I mean, I think for the most part, lineup protection is a myth, right? Except for when you have a generational talent around you. And hey, yeah, on the Mets, there is a generational talent. You could argue there might be a couple of generational talents, which, in spite of Mike Trout previously being a generational talent, I don't think you're going to say that he is currently that type of player that people are going to pitch around. The problem is Luis Robert is projected to hit eights in this lineup. I don't think Carson Bench is a generational talent that you've got to pitch around Luis Robert for, or pitch straight to Luis Robert to get around Carson Bench. The fact that he's hitting 8th in this lineup doesn't make me feel very rosy.
Protection comes from the front, not the back. That the myth of the protection piece is the idea that
this is a family show, Paul.
Is that the batter directly behind you is who protects you. That's what's been broken down and shown to not really exist in the stats. But where protection comes from is a strong lineup altogether, which I think you were hitting on, Your Honor. And the depth of lineup for the Mets is obviously far deeper than it was for the White Sox. So it's the fact that guys are going to be on base when he bats that is a bigger deal than Carson Bench being behind him. Now, to Justin's point, Bench is not necessarily going to strike fear in the hearts of the opponent. If Robert comes up with 2 men on and 2 out, they might walk him. Okay, then he'll take his walk still. So then the walk rate won't drop at that point. I still think that being in this lineup is exponentially better for him. I realize this all hinges on health, but everyone's case does, right? So I think harping on that too much, we have to focus on the talent. And the talent here, with the steals that Robert gives, he's just a far better investment than Adell, who has not shown a proclivity to run outside of 8 to 10.
All right, look, there's some good comments there. I don't like the strays that are going Carson Bench's way after that 4-for-4 night yesterday too. I just want to put
I love Carson Bench.
I don't feel like anybody loves Carson Bench except me. To me, he's like the next coming of Sean Green. That's what I think Carson Bench is.
Oh, wow, you're right.
That's my comp for him in terms of if you watch the finish on the swing and put him side by side, it looks an awful lot.
Does he have that
Sean
kind
Green.
of pop? Oh, I
don't think he
profile.
If you recall when Sean Green came up, that was the same question about Sean Green.
And
it was like, well, Sean Green's a nice player, but he's a big, strong kid. But does he have the pop? And then
didn't he have like
I think we answered that
40 homer seasons?
He did. Now, I don't know if that's gonna be Carson Bench's path necessarily, but to the point about the line of protection, when you go from having the guys that you have around you on the White Sox to having 3 all-stars potentially hitting in front of you, that is pretty spectacular. And I know that this means that, Robert might have to move up in the order at some point, and he's going to have to help himself out there and then have a good spring and go ahead and finish strong here and get off to a good start in April. I think that goes a long way because there is a danger.
That's a lot of ifs. You're so many ifs right there.
Wouldn't argue with the
Justin Mason.
I'll tell you.
Justin Mason, Judge Joey is speaking. When Judge Joey is speaking, you sit down. Otherwise, I'm going to take you in the back there. And and they hold you in contempt. And they put you in that cell. You know what kind of toilet's in that cell, right? Public.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
You're sitting there.
Family show, I thought.
Yeah, it was. It was when we started. It's no longer that. So Luis Robert again. When we're getting down to this point here, the power, the speed combination, this late in the draft. But the biggest point too is the fact that there's money on the line, and when these guys show up, we all know how it is. It's about cashing in, and this is Luis Roberts. Let's face it, last chance to do that. It's now or never, and at this ADP, I'll take the now or never 28 guy than the guy in Joe Adell, who's basically been kind of floating around there. So I will say the court rules. We will be drafting Luis Robert. Finally, we're going to draft somebody. Oh, I'm so happy because we made this graphic, and we haven't gotten to use it yet. And Seth, our wonderful producer here, did such great work on these graphics, set us up with Michael Cowley that I'd feel bad if we never drafted anybody. That brings us to the last player that we're going to speak about today. It's a pitcher, a guy who also sort of popped a little bit, and I think a lot of people, or I mean, some people were on the Nick Pivetta wagon in recent years, and some people were not. It's taken Nick Pivetta a long ride, bounced around a little bit, started with the Phillies. A lot of people liked him, went to the Red Sox, kind of just bouncing around here for years and years. And then last year, 31 starts, 181 innings, 190 strikeouts, just 50 walks, a 2.87 ERA, a .99 whip. Things look pretty good for Nick Pivetta at age 33, maybe a little bit of a late bloomer. Okay, perhaps that could be the case. But I want somebody to defend the ADP of Nick Pivetta because currently we are looking at him as the expert consensus 89, overall 91 in terms of the number of pitchers as well going off the board here when it comes to Pivetta. We are talking about a guy as the 23rd pitcher off the board, ironically, right ahead of Nolan McLean and my favorite human being, Yuri Perez. So who would like to defend the honor and the ADP of one Nick Pivetta?
I will do
Paul
that, Your
Sporer,
Honor.
You may approach the bench.
I was a late convert to Nick Pivetta last year. Throughout draft season, I was like, listen, the marine layer is not just going to miraculously fix his homers. We need to be careful of this guy. watch out. But I was breaking one of my own tenets, Your Honor, which is to not undervalue the guy who's a great whip asset despite being a little bit of an ERA problem. And that was Pivetta in 23-24. And in fact, quite impressively so. He had a 4.09 ERA, which is not that great for fantasy, even in your deeper formats. But a 112 whip, that's good everywhere. There's no format where a 112 whip doesn't play. And he was able to do that with a 30% K rate. So that was the foundation that he was taking to San Diego. But a 1.6 homer 9, and that's what I kept harping on. And I think rightfully so. I was saying we have to be mindful of that. If he cannot fix that, then it's going to be difficult for him to be a stud. But the price was just good enough last year to take the chance. So I got sold on him by some friends, jumped in, and obviously the results were wonderful. He did bring the homers down to 1.1. It was with a 10% homer to fly ball rate, which is easily a career best. I could understand projecting regression there if not for a move to Petco with a 91 home run park factor, 9% below league average. So he's in the right environment. I mentioned the marine layer as well. 2 stifle homers, which are really the only problem that Pivetta has. I know he only pitched 145 and 143 innings the 2 years before that. That was not because of health. That was because of crappiness. He got taken out of the rotation one year, and he was a hybrid pitcher the other year. He had relief and starting. So he's actually been a bit of a workhorse these last 5 years with at least 140 innings in all 5 of them, and would have been able to go 30 plus starts if he had been pitching well. Finally had the breakout season at age 32, is on an organization that I think sustains pitching development very well, a high quality team. I don't see why he can't do something very similar to last year with an elevated ERA. I'm going to put in the homer regression, bring the ERA up to like 3.30, but still get a good 110 to 115 whip, a boatload of Ks, and a ton of win opportunity. I have no problem with where Nick Pivetta's going. He's as good as any of the guys around him and a few of the guys going ahead of him.
Does the bad spring worry you at all, Paul Sporer?
Not really. Let me see the makeup of that. Not especially.
It's exactly what you don't want to see. It's a lack of strikeouts and a ton of walks.
Yeah, it's just all bad, but the velo's the same. I don't know what he's working on, and absent that, I'm just not going to make any judgment on it. If the velo was down, I would go investigate, but it's awful. There's nothing good about these 8 innings except for the fact that Pivetta's velo is okay, and I haven't seen anything. I'm actually, after this call, going to be doing a sweep top to bottom, Arizona to Washington, of every pitcher for my last pitcher update. I'll see what's up with Pivetta's spring, but I haven't heard anything to make me concerned right now.
Before we get to the defenses, the prosecution. Why this is what happens when the wig stays on too long. You start to lose your brain a little bit. Before we get to the prosecution, let me remind everybody to rise for our sponsor, and that is Hard Rock Bet, Florida Sportsbook. It's tourney time. And, of course, my favorite thing to do this time of year is fill out the bracket. So join me at the Volume Bracket Contest presented by Hard Rock Bet. The grand prize winner gets a 2-night stay at the Guitar Hotel at Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Hollywood, Florida, plus $1,000 in bonus bets. To use the Hard Rock Bet app, all you have to do is head to bracket.thevolume.com to fill out your bracket. That's it. It's bracket.thevolume.com. Make your picks right now. They got the daily dance and boosts, which is also Justin Mason's name in college when he used to dance, quote unquote, on the side, featuring live profit boosts and parlay boosts every single day at Hard Rock Bet. And now Hard Rock Bet is giving you $25 bonus bets throughout the tournament if a team you bet to win or cover hits a buzzer beater. Not too shabby there. If you haven't joined Hard Rock Bet, what are you waiting for? Now's the time, and new signups can double their winnings with their first 10 bets, max of $50. That means if you would have won $100, now it's $200. Only at Hard Rock Bet. So shoot your shot, download the Hard Rock Bet app today, and let's get the party started at Hard Rock Bet. Justin Mason, you are always a party, as I mentioned earlier. So let's talk about the prosecution here of Nick Pivetta and why people might want to stay away from him at the current ADP.
It's an insane ADP. It's just so high. It pretty much says he's going to repeat what he did last year, and I just don't see that being a possibility. Like Paul said, that home run rate is going to regress. I mean, he had a home run to fly ball rate of under 10%. He's a career 15% guy. Even if you want to say like, hey, being in San Diego, he can keep it like 12, 13%. He's going to give up more home runs. I just don't understand why people are paying this kind of a price. I mean, both guys we already talked about, right? Even if you want to use the FantasyPros ADP, we talked about Nolan McLean, who I love. We talked about Emmet Sheehan, who Paul loves. Nick Pivetta is going ahead of all of them. I also don't know how good
not the NFBC.
Oh, really? In the
He's
NFBC,
behind both.
That's kind of insane.
Like right
well,
by them at
that tells you
87.
what NFBC really
Is doing with those young
values.
pitchers.
Is doing with young pitchers. I just think that you look at the projections for Nick Pivetta and look on the ones that are on the screen right now. I won't even go over to FanGraphs and pull up their projections. You know, they all pretty much have him as a high threes ERA pitcher. Yeah, 115 whip is good. It's not amazing, but it's
Yes,
good.
it is.
Whoa. What is wrong with you today?
A lot, but it is amazing. If you say something wrong, I'm going to fix it.
Keep your mouth shut while I speak, sir.
You know I can't do that.
I know you can't. That's why I love you. Yeah, 3.90 ERA. You just can't take him this high with those kind of projections unless you feel like he's going to massively. Obviously, Paul does. I have much greater concerns that it's going to regress in San Diego this year. I'm not as worried as I was about the innings. I think Paul, outlined the reasons why he did move between like the bullpen. He also dealt with some injury, a little bit of injury, I believe, in 2024, but nothing major. We saw health last year. So I'm less worried about the innings concern and more worried about a massive regression back to being like a 4 ERA guy, which is what he was pretty much every year of his career until last season. Last season, 2.87 ERA, but a 3.97 xERA, a 3.85 xFIP. I think that ERA regresses and you lose a lot of that value. He's just going way too high.
If he fits this, if he goes to this projection for Pivetta, 3.90 ERA, 115 whip, 184 Ks, where do you think that puts him as a pitcher? Just eyeball, like generally thinking.
27th.
Well, if you think that would be 27th, why wouldn't you draft him as?
I said a random.
Okay,
you have him 18th in your starting pitcher ranks. This is why we're talking about him.
Right. I'm just saying you went too high there. You kind of made my case, but no, it's not quite that high if he reaches those projections. It's more in the 40s. To give the best comp I could find from last year was Robbie Ray, 182 innings, 11 wins, 365, 121.
But then why do you have him ranked 18th?
Hang on. If you would shut the absolute hell
up.
Whoa,
now I have to shut up.
So the 121 whip that Ray had, obviously you're getting 7 points better. And so it's not 1-to-1. And Ray was 41st. That's Pivetta's projection. That's just, that's kind of your median. If I'm paying a top 20 starter price for somebody that I think their median projection is going to put them at like pitcher 35, I don't have a problem with that, right? Because you're not paying for the exact price that you're getting. Otherwise, why the hell would you pay for McLean? Because you have no certainty, anywhere near certainty that he's going to be a top 30
you're paying
pitcher.
Thinking you're going to get profit. I just don't know where the profit is.
I don't think you are always paying to get profit. That's what I'm saying. Is that
all right, gentlemen. Oh, look,
profit versus certainty. I don't think profit is always the reason to take somebody. The certainty of his projection. Oh my God, the gavel broke. The bankability of his projection is why you're paying that premium. The whip is bankable. Yes, the ERA is a risk. I will grant that, but I still think he's draftable over Sheehan and McLean for sure.
Let's get some order here. Now, there's no statute of limitations. I'm going back and look at stats, so I decided to pull some stuff up here a little bit too, just to see, just out of morbid curiosity, what Nick Pivetta's 2025 spring looked like before we got into such good stuff going on with Nick Pivetta, and it was much better. 4 starts, 13 innings. Spring doesn't matter, except he was striking out 17 guys in the 13 innings and just 7 walks there, 0.98 whip there, a 3.38 ERA. So he was sharp right from the beginning last year. I'm wondering if maybe the wear and tear of that season, maybe a little bit taking its toll on a guy that isn't used to just being a starter out of the gate all the time. A little bit of concern with that. I do like the ballpark factor. That is a positive as you continue to weigh all the pros and cons here. I got to ask you this question, and I think it's going to hang here. You mentioned about bringing in innings and how you think he's going to bring in innings. There's a guy, Kevin Gausman, going a little bit later than him, who just basically gives you 30 starts every single year. Since 2021, 31, 31, 31, 31, and 32 last year. He pitches on a great team. Why would I want to go ahead and take Nick Pivetta when I could just wait a round or two and take Kevin Gausman? Can you sell me on that? Or with the upside of a guy like my dude, Yuri Perez, who also is going after Nick Pivetta in that same realm. Those are two guys that I think I would be targeting if I wanted somebody just, that I could rely on versus somebody that I think has huge upside, as opposed to Pivetta, who had a very good season, but not a lot to back it up in terms of his history. Sell me on that, Paul Sporer, before I make my final decision.
I mean, I think his history does back it up, though, more, especially from the whip perspective. The ERA, this is what I'm saying about overvaluing the guy, or undervaluing the guys that have great whip but bad ERA. It is an ERA risk, but that's the same thing that you're drafting with Gausman. He's been at 383 and 359 the last 2 years. There's some risk there with his ERA to not be so fantasy relevant, but he's also 35 versus 32. So give me the 3 years. I'd call the teams a wash. Toronto and San Diego, both great teams, going to put you in position to win, but the AL Beast is probably more difficult than the NL West. Yes, the Dodgers are there, but it's every team in the AL Beast. You at least get some reprieve out in the West, especially against the Giants. Who would root for them? Lame. But anyway, with Gausman, it's just the older guy that I have some concerns with, and that splitter's been a bit in and out. Look at sort of the BABIPs that he put up when he first started over there. I don't mind Gausman. I think that's a fair pivot if you didn't want to pay the premium on Pivetta, but I think they are kind of one in the same there, and I'll just take the guy who's 3 years younger.
All right. Looking at the numbers, as Paul Sporer has asked me to do, too, despite all those whips that were so good, the 1.126, the 1.121, they also are accompanied by ERAs both over 4. Therefore, this court is going to rule in favor of Justin Mason on this one. We are going to avoid Nick Pivetta at his current ADP.
You'll rue the day.
This wasn't enough there. Too many other sexy pitchers like Nolan McLean and Yuri Perez, and then, of course, some boring guys. I mean, heck, even Sonny Gray every year strikes out like 180 guys.
Can I say one thing against myself, Your Honor, with Pivetta?
Sure.
He is part of one of the worst pitcher classes to buy, which is the guy off the breakout year. There's a reason
100%.
that,
that's a big part of it, too.
And
he's not young. Had he been 28, not 33, I'd feel much differently about this. I feel much differently about Trevor Rogers than I do about Nick Pivetta in terms of what I saw last year.
If he was going where he was going last year, which was like pick 180, I'd be all in. I was all in.
Yeah, he wouldn't.
Too.
I mean,
like,
Mason,
not gonna get him that
split
cheap.
the difference. I think
that's what I was going to say.
160,
Yeah,
like
put him with
totally
Eovaldi or something.
Like, how much different is
120?
Pivetta than Imanaga? Right? Like Imanaga can give you a good whip too.
That's a good counterpoint.
Why not
ERA
just
problem.
wait and take Imanaga later?
That is the counter to Pivetta.
Great stuff.
I totally agree with that.
Excellent work, gentlemen. As always, I expect nothing less than the Sleeper and the Bus Boys. And of course, if you want more debates on these or you got opinions, you could always drop them in the comments below. Who are you drafting? Who are you avoiding? I like when we do these deep dives. We did an hour on 5 players and it went by like that. And I love that because it's some great debate and some good old-fashioned arguing back and forth. And as an Italian, there's nothing I like to do more than argue and listen to other people argue. It's a beautiful thing, although I'm still in mourning after Italy lost yesterday. It was a hell of a run,
they
boys.
were rematching tonight. How great
I wish they
would
were
that
too.
have been?
God, it was a hell of a run, boys. A hell of a run.
I went to Houston. I saw your boys on Saturday against Puerto Rico. It was electric.
Electric. And let it be known, too, this is what happens when you also have tickets that are moderately priced. You get everybody in the ballpark who's super excited to be there.
Packed to the gills, baby.
Packed to the gills. Now, tonight, I believe it's like $300 a ticket to get to the final. So
of course.
Still might change a little bit.
I would still go. I would still go.
But let that be a lesson, Major League Baseball. Let's work on them ticket prices a little bit in the playoffs. Let's get these places back rocking and rolling because you want to get the real fans in there who got the real passion for the game.
They might have a $20 ticket, but they're still going to buy the freaking $25 hot dog, right?
That's right. They'll buy 3 hot dogs because they'll have more money in their pockets.
Exactly.
Especially if the team's losing. They'll buy more beers and hot dogs and just bury their sorrows. Gentlemen, excellent work. I think both of you should continue to practice law, perhaps maybe even, do a little, maybe pass the bar in some of your respective states. We'll see if you can do that in a backup job, maybe in the offseason.
I'd be held in contempt way too often. I don't know when to shut that up.
Probably true. Yeah, that would be a big problem. But we're very grateful for you guys joining us today. Once again, don't forget, subscribe to the channel. Drop your comments below. You could win the big belt. We love having Mason and Sporer here, and go check out their show too. I know they just came off the big Tout Wars drafts this weekend. A lot going on, so they got great content. Go listen to their shows. Go watch their shows too, so you can get ready for all of your drafts over the next 2 weeks. That'll do it for us. But the story of the game goes on for Mason and Paul Sporer. I'm Judge Joey. We'll see you next time. Court is adjourned. That's it. We're done. We're out of here. I got to say, this wig, I might wear it out to the grocery store later.
I dare you.
And just see what kind of attention I get.
You gotta.
You'll get some attention, that's for sure.
Oh my God.
And I should just nobody know. I should just never.